Let me
And
test something.
we're here. Roll for recap, peeps. Let's go.
Oh,
Got 10 for Lothar. 5
No,
for
it's not a
Torbran.
10. It's not a 10, it's a 2.
It's
That one
2.
was just the macro test. It had a +6 to it.
I see. Lothar just desperately wanted to do the recap today. Well, without further ado, take it away.
So, last week, we figured out that the eyes looking at us menacingly from the chasm were just a bunch of gemstones,
Mm-hmm.
which is a dangerous monster if you consider greed and other vices monstrous. But again, we didn't start with the danger straight on, but we did find it once we descended into the chasm. It turned out to be a drake-looking thing encrusted in gemstones that Torbran essentially shot to pieces up until it exploded and rendered its head unusable, but we did grab 4 legs to serve as proof and a few gemstones to see if they were actually of any worth before heading back out and spending the night in the wilderness, preparing to continue on our way the next day.
Is there anything anyone else would like to add?
I have
Ben?
a lot more notes, but it's all good. We can just start. I want to use the time to play.
Fair enough. So, as
was it a long rest?
just a short rest.
Right.
But we were getting ready to sleep, right?
No, you were heading back out the cave.
Wasn't it?
Where you scrambled
Yeah,
up
but
and out.
wasn't it night when you got out?
It was, and that was the predicament where we left you on the reverse cliff edge of looking out over the valley, seeing the mist in a low-lying fall, the moon rising on the horizon.
Oh, so it's nightfall.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as we are back out, Lothar is going to suggest setting camp and setting up a watch.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Very well.
Are we still on the mountain?
You are. You. I would trust that you clambered up out of the cave from which you entered, and you can just still hear this every 10 minutes or so. This whisper, this screech on the wind. Sort of everyone who I would say probably eventually would hear at some point. You don't hear each interval. Unless you have a passive perception of over 20, then you would. And in general, your eerie feeling, this sense that there's being watched, which is what Lothar mentioned in the cave last week towards the end
Mm-hmm.
of the session, is ever present. Yet you still post your sentry, who would be taking. I won't be asking for a full roster. I just want to know who takes first watch.
I'll take last watch, and I will prepare some breakfast during that last watch.
Okay.
I'll take first watch in that case.
All right. And Ariel in
Are
the middle.
we taking watches one by one? Because I'm just gonna point out that I really suck at watches. Like, okay, I'll be second. I'll be second. It will suck, but I'll be second.
Just don't fall asleep. Just don't
I
fall
can do
asleep and
that.
yell if something gets in the camp.
Okay.
Well, with the party size and the long rest being 8 hours, it makes sense for it to be 2-hour stint.
Okay. So
As
yeah, then I'll
Lothar.
be second, and Voldred will be third, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, could I have each of you roll perception checks, please, for your individual watches?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said.
Fantastic. Okay, so as the camera does a
But I
quick,
don't fall asleep, please. Just make me completely not there.
as the camera does a quick time lapse, Lothar, you would be acutely aware of this presence that you felt, and sort of every time you almost feel the urge to sort of reach out as you know how to sense those of malicious or perhaps deific intent, or at least background. Each time as you do so, you get the same response. Although, as you sort of come to the end of your watch, you would realize the last time you do it, just for one more for the road, you no longer sense evil, even the slightest faint, in your companions. Though you do, just as you watch, almost like it's parked above the entrance to the cave that you found, which is essentially on the same outcrop that you are now nestled and encamped upon. Just above the entrance, 10, 15 feet high. You can't see anything. As you turn in, just a one more screech distant on the wind. Ariel, roll me a d20.
Okay.
You want to roll higher. Okay.
I rolled 11.
During your watch, as Lothar nestles you awake, you are constantly, intermittently rocking yourself back and forth in this cold environment, this not totally foreign to you, but the mountain certainly is just change of environment. And every now and again you blink, though you're not so sure if it was a blink or if you dozed off for a moment or two, but you fight yourself awake, startled a little, and then you realize, no, I'm awake, I'm okay. You keep watch, and as you listen, the wind biting cold, as you would observe at this point as the moon is approaching its zenith in the sky, the mist, as it sort of snuck upon you, has risen to surround the entire outcrop and even above your head. However, the visible distance, you can still see all of your companions. Though as you look to the cave entrance is fine. The darkness dwelling within prevents you from seeing inside. And what was previously the beautiful valley with its natural native carvings to an unaltered, an unimpacted design, one just of pure nature, is no longer visible at all. And your watch comes to an end as you wake Voldreth in the middle of the mist.
Okay.
Voldreth,
I tell him that the mist is really heavy, but that's all I can tell from him.
and you would still know it's of arcane in nature. Voldreth, with your roll, you didn't have advantage on this, did you? It was just the 7, right?
No, just a 7. Yeah.
Just the 7. As you two wake up, you find yourself encompassed in the mist. A brief explanation from Ariel, who, before almost finishing her sentence, has already fallen asleep. And as you sort of get to your feet and perch yourself up, sort of looking out there, the mist itself, on your watch, it's just a white cloud. So you focus more intently on listening with your dwarven ears. Not much gets past you. But even the odd screech upon the wind, a distant voice, the only thing that you perceive is the grumbling of your stomach. As you wake Torbran to begin the last watch and get the last few hours of your sleep. Torbran, as you wake up, I assume you would probably start a campfire and begin your sort of morning routine and ritual.
Absolutely.
As you will. So as you tend the stove, make it comfortable enough to start preparing a breakfast, etc. On your watch, you would hear high above you something that immediately startles you at one point, about 20 minutes into your watch, just after Voldreth has begun to slowly snore. And in between each breath, the first time you didn't catch it, the second, you realize it's not Voldreth. There's like this high above you. You hear it one more time throughout your watch. As you look up, the moon almost disappearing beyond the horizon as dawn is breaking and the mist is beginning to lower. Though it's still about the height of your outcrop, which is about 1/3 up the height of this mountain, the sheer cliff face that you stand upon. You can sense that this sort of mist is going to slowly decay in with the morning as it comes. You prepare your meal, enjoy your hearty. What do you choose to cook?
This will be a nice morning Drake stew.
The rest of you and Torbran in conclusion can all mark off a long rest and regain your spells and hit dice as the strangest smell permeates through your subconsciousness that wakens you. This smell of like damp, wet meat. And yet it's got this earthy texture just in the smell to it. And that sort of is what would probably arouse yourselves.
I have a small question. How many hit dice do you regain upon a long rest? Is it half?
All of them, I believe.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
And so, as dawn has broken, the party comes to for breakfast.
Good morning.
Hello.
Oh,
Dear.
morning. What's cooking?
Drake stew. Or at least so I think.
That's not a good way of spelling it.
You see this bubbling large steel pan with all these juicy, tiny pieces of meat and some pieces of bone marrow for a broth, sort of bubbling and steaming in the cold morning air.
Lothar is going to approach Torbran, lean in to smell. Take a whiff. Doesn't look that bad. And taking out a parchment from underneath his heraldic shoulder crest, he burns it over the pot and casts Purify Food.
Okay. As you
Just in case.
do this, there's almost like a little bit of a hue, just almost like someone flashed a light bulb over the stew. That earthy smell is gone within a few moments. However, that lingering damp texture seems to be well within the air. And it's not the most appealing looking broth that is served up to all of you this morning, though let's actually roll and find out before we make the decision. Can you please roll on your table, Pepine?
Do you need a cooking roll first, or do you want the
It's the
table
cooking roll.
roll?
It's the cooking roll.
Right. That's just a. So that's a wisdom roll.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just roll wisdom? Does that work? Yes, it does. So that will be 12.
Okay.
Wait, is that proficiency added? It should be, right?
Yes, you were. Yeah,
All right, so that's 15 then.
15 then. So, with a good quality, you're convinced there's at least no raw meat left in this stew, and this broth itself is wonderfully textured, and you've not really thrown too much in with it, but it's safe to eat, and especially with the purification, you know, you know deep down, oh, it just removed quite a bit of flavor, but you know, It's still going to be enjoyable. Or so you hope. This time there is no rolling on the table. However, who chooses to partake?
Lothar, instantly.
Absolutely.
Oh, give me some grub.
I think we're all eat.
Okay. All of you, for the next 2 hours, have this strange sort of like every time you sort of belch initially as it goes down, the warmness, you sort of cough up a little bit, and as you do, there's almost like this little bit of gemstone flake spark to your breath as you exhale.
We exhale sparkles.
Pretty much.
That's cute. That's cute.
Now, as you complete your rest, your meal comes to a close. You're all heartily fed and well fed. As by this point, I would say it's probably sort of 9 o'clock in the morning or so, and as the sun has permitted, you can see the mist now retreating down to its almost non-existent level, the same at which you sort of were exposed to as you entered here at midday in the day prior. And a safe journey down the mountain is there before you, the same route in which you ascended. Who is taking the lead on this part of the expedition? And who
Before
is
we
bringing up the
leave
rear?
the cave, I want to say like a little words to like send off the dead that are in the cave.
Okay.
To those lost souls, the Avatar may guide you. Peace be upon you. As he ends that line, he'll just burp and cough, and little gemstones will fly out.
Now, as you make your way down, who is leading the path and who is bringing up the rear?
Lothar would suggest Torbrin
Sure.
keeping the lead, and he'll close up as a mobile rear guard, essentially.
Fair enough. So, Torbran, you would know the direction of which Firefall is, though you've never actually been there. And as you head on towards your destination, this valley itself, it's sort of a deep, riverless, plateaued basin with steep walls on the on the east and west sides. The west side being the mountain cliff face that you've just been descending from, and the east side a small, or in comparison, more like a hill, though it does produce enough of a barrier to hide the Golden Citadel in all its glory from view. As you make your way to the basement, as you make your way along the basin's floor,
Da. Mai.
you can sense there probably once was a river here, long ago, perhaps even a lake, as you can see silt and debris of natural erosion in its resting place. A couple of hours go by, and as you're leading towards the other side of this basin, as you've made journey at great pace, if I could get all of you, as you know, it's just Superpan. Can you roll a survival roll for me? There's Tormund and it's natural 20. Okay.
No, it's not.
No?
It's just a 20.
Oh, it's a 20. Okay.
Combined 20.
With a 20, a dirty 20, you successfully avoid several perils, loose footfalls, perhaps rock and silt that gives way under a few bits of weight being distributed unevenly, and a little bit of a cave in revealing small, deep passages that you can look down before you but see no end to. As you avoid these natural hazards, you come round, heading now into a more northern direction as this basin sort of ends. As you can see, a very well trodden path almost appears sort of before you, about halfway up the exit to here, as if to say this would be perhaps the actual original height of where this body of water that used to occupy this space may have started. And as this path before you winds snake-like into the mountain side above you, you can see sort of on the cliff edge, on the far eastern side of this facing mountain, you can see a small silhouette of a town overlooking the great sea to the east. Mayafall stands before you. Several hours away,
That's
but
your
there
Bukatsikala. That's your Bukatsikala.
nonetheless.
I think we're starting to approach our destination over there. So are we on a high point at the moment?
You now sort of on a bit of a flat that is beginning a natural ascent, but you're on effectively a defined road.
Okay.
Though it's just
So-
rubble and grit, but it's
Okay.
it's well paved and well trodden.
Is
And you
Meyerfall
mentioned we see a small silhouette of this village. What is it exactly?
Yeah, the small
This
town
village?
on the hillside.
Okay,
As its
small town.
backdrop against the mountain, the town, and the rest of the sky overlooking before you.
right? Okay.
I've been around these parts for the last 2 years, but never been up this way before. Anything we should be wary of?
Well, it's been quite the scenic route so far.
The mist left us, right? It's not still with us.
It's been away this morning as you've been working, taking your expedition. However, as you sort of say this, you can look behind you, and to the peak, or at least at the base of the peak that you did start your morning, you can still see sort of like rolling from out of sight from the west, the beginnings low-lying, that same mist. Though it is far away and not impairing your vision at all at the moment, it seems to be
So it's
oncoming.
still there.
So this more paved or more main road that we approach, is it vastly different from the road that we've been traveling? Are we
As it's very similar to the road in which you entered the mountain pass upon. In fact, you would argue it's probably the same road. You did deviate off once you entered into the valley, and you obviously deviated up the side of the mountain. And over the course of where you walked across the lake's basin, it's been just natural, no road whatsoever. You've just been following your instinct. But now it looks to be the same road that would have been the desired path to and from the Golden Keep.
all right? Is there anything of note on the road? Broken down card or any human or humanoid
Make a perception check as you
traces?
look around as the path begins to ascend and snake around the mountainside before you.
10.
On a 10, you're sort of listening, looking. Wind seems to pick up a little bit. A cold sea breeze sort of hijacks your senses, though, as you attempt to attune, you just get the salt water in your lungs. Not much else. Nothing of note that strikes out at you. And so, as the party...
I say we press on. Got our destination in sight. Good clean road to travel. You'll be able to get there in no time.
Yep. Although,
Okay.
did you notice that mist seems to be following us? Maybe it's just me.
Could be something endemic to these parts. It wouldn't be the first magic anomaly I've run across.
Would that basically be something that I have noticed in the past, since I've been somewhat been up this path a little bit?
You had previously chalked it off to, as you spent sort of the last couple of weeks in this territory, you chalked it off to just morning mist.
Maybe.
You thought nothing of it,
Sure.
as you'd never been that high above it to see how high it goes previously.
Old people back in the Dominion kept talking about a time when there was little to no magic in the world. It was all controlled. The weather was always, they'd call it normal, but not normal for us, is it? At least the fog is gray.
I've seen my fair share of mists in the snowy peaks back home, but the mist here seems different, but it's mist nonetheless to me.
Well, at least it's not a hole in the sky. Or in the ground. Or
Holes in
not
the
some
ground can be a treasure trove.
tear into the air from which demons pop out of. Or fae.
As I hear the word
I'll
fae,
take
I
the
just
same
instantly
as
think back of
human.
the honey that was mentioned earlier a couple days ago. It's like, on that note, I do really want to try some fae stuff.
Never really seen a fae. Not properly, at least. Only heard of them.
You can't equate them to devils and demons.
Oh no, not to demons. Devils, maybe. Demons, definitely
No,
not.
absolutely not.
Have you ever met a devil?
No.
They're quite diplomatic and gentlemanly until they get your soul.
Okay.
Don't fae folk like to play all sorts of grievous tricks on mortals?
Yes, but the point isn't to get anybody's soul. It's a lot
People
more
still end up killed.
light-hearted.
People still end up killed, don't they?
I think it really depends. Sometimes there's an offense brought to someone that you would find justified, I'm sure. It's not like you're free of killing yourself, are you?
No, absolutely not.
You always have interesting conversations about your dinner like this.
The moral implications of dinner.
The moral implications of dinner.
What a fantastic title for the episode.
Yes.
I've always been jealous of people who can get properly drunk. Wielding the kind of stuff I wield renders me, for the most part, immune. So when I drink with other soldiers, they'd always get buzzed and then drunk, and the stories they remember when alcohol flows. I've always been jealous on how easy it comes to them when they say them. It's usually
Maybe
over
you just
dinner.
need a special kind of broth.
Now, Torben, you would be very familiar with paladins and those of the light, as many of your kin in ages gone were also worshippers of Moradin and paladins to his cause. There were special brews that could even bypass those of strong alcoholic resistance to lay waste to those of lesser minds, even of dwarven stature.
Oh, where I come from, there's brews that not even the toughest can handle.
Oh, do you happen to have a flask handy?
Do I look like I have a flask handy?
Yes, you do.
I could
Yes, you
drink
look
do.
like-
that.
If I turn my head, you might just pull off an entire calf.
I will sort of turn away and sort of sneakily grab a little flask, take a little sip. I have no idea what you're talking about.
roll a sleight of hand check. Unless you're
Yeah, Kevin-
intentionally being overt with it.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Wow, that's an amazing sleight of hand.
So,
You really didn't see it.
so as Torben
I
is
do it
saying
in a
this,
way
and
that they see it.
as he turns
I
around,
do it.
just go on.
I do it in a way where they're supposed to see it a little bit.
I see. So as he incredibly like rummages something out that none of you see, he just essentially sort of like turns around, brings it back down. However, at this point,
Flakes of gemstone.
adds to the flavor. At this point, as you are finishing the last twist on this road, as you can see heading up about 200 feet away from you, you can see the outskirts of a small palisade wall with the gatehouse ahead of you. No sentries that you can see. However, you do notice the road begins to change. More dust and debris is littered around. Just debris of rock and loose stone, small, dust-like size. A slight discoloration to the road, but enough to distinguish it from the general purpose of the road itself to this is debris that's been left upon it. As you approach the gatehouse, you hear a voice from the inside, sourceless at the moment, an old croak. Who is it? And how many of 'em state your business?
Adventurers Guild. 4 of us.
Oh, they sent a lot of you then.
You did put up a contract.
Well, I didn't.
Oh, somebody in there did.
What's the name?
And he's going to pull out the copy, the safety copy that he got, and look for a name on it.
You get the impression he's sort of asking for the name of the troop as opposed to the name of who issued the contract.
Okay. um, the Ravensman? I suppose we settled on the Ravensman, right?
The what? Never heard of you.
R-
Are you new?
Good. Of course you never heard of us. Have you heard of every mercenary band that comes out of there?
Yeah, the Brass Knuckles, the Silverheads. Who were the other ones? Oh, the Rufford Reddies. They were fun. Didn't last long,
Mhm.
though.
There's also the Boar's Tusks, the Perish Grey Sword, the Wolf Belts, the Wolfskins, the Wolf's Guard, the Wolf Guard.
Wolf's Guard?
Ah,
That's an old one.
ah,
In fact, I remember
well,
hearing that a long time ago. Reminds me of... And at this point, there's just... Oh, silence, you old crone. Get back inside. My apologies. And you just hear a latch. And just as a gate mechanism begins to unwind, the gatehouse door opens before you. The first thing that meets your eyes is this grey haze that now stands before you. It's almost like you didn't notice it as you were approaching the village, but now sort of everything is a little bit hazier. Just in the air, there's this atmosphere. Though as you step foot into the courtyard, you see an individual currently winding just in robes of guard uniform, winding the gate itself, opening the door. An old silhouetted, hunched over individual who's scurrying away out of sight into one of the nearby buildings. You've almost entered into sort of like a fort-like square rectangular courtyard with a large double-storied building at the far end and various single-level dwellings scattered throughout. And standing before you with arms outstretched open is a formal-looking individual who gives a little low bow and then says, I'm Todd Duskwater. Pleasure to meet you all. Ravensbeard?
Raven's Men.
Ravensmen, sorry, I couldn't catch it over the old hag, you know. Right, anyway, he looks over his shoulder, just check they're out of sight and out of distance. And as he sort of beckons, he pulls his cape and says, please, towards the Hall of Legends. We'll hear your case there and see if we have work for you.
He's going to gently pat Steadfast on the mane as they walk into town.
Steadfast had materialized for some part of this journey sometime around the water basin as
Yes.
almost quickly the rest of you go, when did that get here? However, to the notice of all of you, There are no other people present. No windows with lights, no one moving about this courtyard, no guards posted, only the person operating the gate as it closes behind you with a large thud and a clank of a heavy weight lifting as a lock is slid over the mechanism and the doors themselves. As Todd is leading you, a regal-looking red cloak billowing behind him as he sort of, almost in an excited manner, leads you on to this second-story building at the end of this promenade.
You'd think more people would be out at this time of the day.
On the contrary, sir. He looks to you, inquisitively.
Lothar.
Lothar. Sir Lothar. Nope, not met that one before. Sir Lothar. On the contrary, this time this would be the mining peak season, you see. Most of the town will probably be taking rest here, approaching lunchtime. But probably maybe 300 feet, and he taps his foot on the floor.
Even the women, the children, the old people,
Oh, the
merchants.
only old person up here is that crone you saw before. No women around here on my fault.
So
We're
no
a
mining
mining town.
families, just so people would come and settle with their families, right?
No, God no. We contract in. We come here, do a couple of shifts for a few months, go home. That's as
So
long as
everything's
this will
just
take.
contract labor.
And a few local born and breds, yeah, mostly. Do you not do any research on this place before you came?
No, sir, I did not.
I guess the Adventurers Guild's sending anyone these days. Anyway, without further ado, the Hall of Legends awaits, and the door opens, and he beckons in. And inside, you see this warm hearth rolling at the end of the other end of this long corridor, which you immediately realize is some kind of sort of makeshift courthouse, possibly throne room, possibly dance chamber for balls and large things that remind you of your sort of, well, things come to mind for Lothar. However, the reality comes in as this is a multi-purpose room that seems to function however it is needed at all times. And sitting on the large chair in the back next to the hearth, opposite side, is a hooded individual who has a small little row, almost like a crown around the head. It seems to be of various colors. It almost looks silver with various mounted gems upon it, and you can see the gems are in the shape of like a crossed double pickaxe. As Todd gives a low bow and says, clears his throat, like, "Hi, Minor Halphus. I bring word and members of the Adventurers Guild in seek of the quandary that you posted last month." The individual removes his hood, and you can see a very jaded, scarred-looking, half-human, and from the weird disfigurement on the left-hand side, you're not quite sure if orc, possibly dwarf, possibly drow, just a very discolored left-hand side of the skin, which they keep on the other side of the hearth, so it's poorly illuminated and preventing you from observing it. Though as a low grin comes across the face, this guttural bellow of a hearty welcome is ushered upon all of you.
Lothar would incline in the matter of antiquated Arling court. It's a pleasure to meet you, High Minor.
You really brought that one, then, didn't you? He takes off the small crown and casts it to one side, puts it on the dresser. He says, I'm just messing. You think we've got any high-living individuals up here? Oh god, I can't resist. And Todd just is fighting back a grin as you can see he's taking off this red mantle, and to reveal both of them are effectively dressed as miners underneath the royal attire that they've donned for such a purpose.
Lothar would laugh at that.
Name's Alphys. I am the head miner, but only in position, not title.
We heard you've had missing people.
Absolutely. Hundreds. How far back we going?
Wow.
As far back as the contract you posted at the Golden Keep.
Oh, well, I think we've had 2 more since then, but in my position, 300 or 400. Been here nearly a decade now.
So I'm assuming we're talking about unaccounted vanishings, right? Something that can't be explained by a cave-in.
Oh no, you
Or
asked who's
workout.
missing. I just told you everything. But let me see. What were we asking? And he pulls out some kind of ledger from one of the drawers on the side of this well-kept, some kind of oakish wood panel in the door, panel in the wall. As he pushes it in, the book releases, and he looks through, turns to it, and you see it seems to be some kind of like list of names to anyone who gets close enough to observe. As he runs his finger down, and you see there's like a markings. There's 2 recent entries, and then you can see a block of 6, 7, 8 with the ledger dates of last month. As he comes to you and says, "So you're just talking about the what would be 8 now, or are you here for the rest?"
Let's start with the 8. And we'll see about the rest.
Right.
Do
Are you all going in, or are you leaving some behind, or what?
We will all be going in.
Right, okay, so I have to ask, health and safety and all of that kind of thing. Who's not here been to the Fey Realm already?
The Fey Realm.
Yes.
I do not believe I've been there, no.
Well, where do you
Oh,
think
wow.
we do all the mining?
A little grin starts to appear on Torben's
Oh my
face.
gosh, no! You shouldn't
Do
do
the
that.
mining in the mine.
Well, forgive me for expecting all the mining to be done in caves.
Well,
Are you
yes.
mining any honey by chance?
Todd, have we ever come across any stone creatures that make honey? Anywhere? I don't think we have in the Fey Realm. Todd sort of looks over to you and goes, and you get this sense with your passive insight, he's trying to be very polite and puts like a hand on your shoulder and is just like, I don't quite think that's how it works.
A
Am I
dwarf can
familiar
dream.
with Fey Honey?
I'm sorry, everyone came through at the same time then. What was that, Ariel?
I'm asking if I'm familiar with Fey Honey.
You would know that there are some gargantuan insectoids that do produce magical honey of
Lovely.
medicinal and venomous in nature, depending on which breed or species you go for. Some are kept as pets in gardens that help populate strange
Aw.
natural fey flowers. Others are feared and revered equally and warned away from in
What about, I have a very specific question, but you know those flowers that like have a drop of honey in their, the honeysuckle flower?
Yep.
There anything like that in the Fey realm that would be native to the Fey realm but have like the honey thing?
Give me a history roll with advantage or religion, whichever you'd prefer.
I suck at both, it's fine.
Okay. On a 12,
12.
you would know there isn't a flower that it replicates the honeysuckle, but you would
Mm-hmm.
know that there's actually an insectoid that looks like a flower that produces and
Oh.
stores small parts of that honey upon its member to attract others
Aw,
small
that's so
insectoids
cute.
to consume as food. So it
That's
is to
cute.
be warned.
Okay. If we run into one of those, just let me know.
Okay. The name eludes you at this moment, though it is something that you've always been aware of.
Yeah.
And so, as Halfus is eagerly sort of awaiting a response, and he says, "Well, take it none of you have been to the Fey Realm then." Well, okay.
I have. Nobody's listening to me.
Oh, my apologies, Miss
I'm Ariel.
Ariel. He's going to make an insight roll on you.
Go ahead.
Okay. He gives you this sort of look, and it gives you a little bit discomforting, like a creep who's holding onto your hand a little bit too long from an initial welcome gesture. And then Todd clears his throat loudly as Halfus sort of
Oh,
comes to his senses, let go of your hand, and just says, "Yes, sorry. You just reminded me of someone. That's all. Just think nothing of it. Anyway,
I get that all the time.
he looks like he wants to say more, but Todd interrupts him. As
Okay.
Todd says, "Well, I suppose if you were all looking to make a name for yourself out here, I suppose any corpse is. Well, we prefer you not to bring heads. Each miner has a set of tags. They're known as the Union Card. So if you could recover any of those, we would be able to mark them as confirmed dead, which would take them off the missing list, would be great. And as you can sort of see, there is a, if not larger, book in the wall panel to the left, and as you notice, sort of a singular rune scribed into it in common. It denotes death log, and this one seems to be much larger than the missing log. As you can see
Okay.
this, he just gestures for you all to follow, though as he explains or begins to explain things like a well-rehearsed speech of welcoming new contractors to a mine of such danger, and well, as we could say, we here take no liability or responsibility should you choose to delve into the yada yada yada. Is anyone actually listening? No, good, great, fantastic. So down below you will see the portal to the Fey Realm that we have actively. That's sort of what draws in sort of a lot of the general atmospheric pressures in this environment. So, a while ago we did have something that sort of came through. We didn't really see anything, but sort of big explosion. One or two people died in the immediate fray of it, and then you're not here for that anyway. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so as he leads you down,
I have a magic question,
go.
an arcana question, if you will.
Mhm.
Is it easy to maintain a Fey portal? Or is it something that's very difficult that these guys have done under
So
incredible duress?
you would know from experience, and without saying too much about your backstory, you know that there are almost like holes between realms that are just permanently there. It's almost like the stitching of the fabric of the realms. It was like someone's pierced a needle through one and it's caught the other, and as a result, it's tight at that point.
Yeah.
You're very familiar with this kind of thing. However, actively opening and maintaining a direct portal link is outlandish as a concept to you. And so,
So either they found a natural one and it's just one of those, or if not, it's whoa.
yes, very much so.
Okay. Okay.
So, as
Okay.
this is going through your mind, you are being led into a small single dwelling which nestles its back into the mountainside within the small palisade entrance. As the door is unlocked before you, Todd sort of secures a key, opens up this padlock, runs his hand over it before removing the padlock and then opening the door itself. Inside, you can immediately hear the bustles of heavy movement, grunting, the sounds of a mine in operation, or at least voices echoing throughout a large chamber as the temperature in this room just went from a winter's cold day to you just stepped into a sauna inside this room. Now, as Todd expresses, he says, right, well, if you wouldn't mind following me, just, it's only 12 floors, at least, last I counted, you know, as he goes down and begins to descend a small spiral staircase, which is off to the left-hand side. This room itself that you're stood upon, that he's gesturing you to leave and go down the spiral staircase, is essentially just a 5x5 room, almost like a wardrobe with a desk and a open book on it, almost like some kind of log, with a dried up inkwell and a quill. Nothing else is present in this room other than that desk with the book on it. As he begins
Wow.
to descend, it's singular spiral, and he's already out of sight. He says, "Come, come, come!"
So what do you think got your miners? You must have some suspicion.
Well, it depends, as he's sort of like echoing behind, or echoing in front of you as you're descending down this staircase. He says, well, it could have been any of the pests that we've had to deal with. Could have been some of the locals. You know, we tell you, you know, under no circumstances interact with them. They're not too happy about our operation. We've come to some agreements and arrangements, but we don't think it would be those because they know that you know, a couple of boomsticks being misplaced at the wrong time could be detrimental to their health as much as ours. So you know, we keep a sort of neutral environment in that one. Just general dangers of the Fey realm, and plus, you know, sometimes you find a mountain mushroom that someone decides to take a little bit of a trip on, and then of course you find yourself wandering off into the sunset, never to return. Could be anything.
Mushrooms?
Yes, mountain mushrooms. And he sort of turns and looks at you and just is almost like, is it a dwarf really unsure of mountain mushrooms? Have you never come across these? To you,
Oh,
have never heard of a mountain mushroom. Dwarven rock salt.
mushroom?
Yeah.
What do you mean, mountain mushroom?
After about 6 floors down this spiral staircase, you can see roots, natural vines coming through as you are no longer traveling through wooden staircase. You are now traveling through a stone carving of natural rock, various discolorations, natural and some artificial planks of wood stuck in here and there as you continue to descend as the sounds are echoing up. As you come out below, you see what could be perceived as a dragon's treasure trove of gold, silver, ore of all colors. On the far distance, there is just a mine shaft that is going horizontally in towards the mountain direction. And you can see the lanterns hanging. A cart is currently being sent off. 2 or 3 individuals there, one dwarf, one black orc in coloration, and another individual that you can't quite see, though it looks like they've got heavy scales on their back. Shirtless individuals, load bearing, load carrying, as they finish loading up the contents of one cart with looks to be some kind of mining equipment, whilst offloading another one full of these rare and precious metals. And this cavern is the only way to describe this room that you find yourself within. Is vast in all directions, and this is just like stores of golden wealth.
Wow.
So is it just minerals that you're mining here?
Anything shiny, really, I suppose. You see, how much about the minting business do you know? He turns to you with an inquisitive look.
What do you mean by minting?
Gold coins, of course. GSKs? GSCs? Sorry, I can't spell in my head. GSCs, the golden skull coin. They all got to come from somewhere.
So you're
So
saying you're you're fabricating currency.
Not fabricating. No, 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 no. The he looks at you and it's almost like a sigh of disbelief. Like the higher ups in the Lord's tier have an ongoing contract at the Royal Mint and the Golden Skull Keep. It requires fresh ore. Now, fresh ore we mined out of that mountainside in the great distance decades ago, though no one actually told anyone in the Golden Skull Keep. Someone happened upon this mine out of pure happenstance. It was really the most fortuitous thing that ever happened to Mirefall, and we have prospered very handsomely ever since. And as a result, it turns out that Feygold is so much easier to work with because he picks up a handful of it, and you see just this lump about the size of his palm. And he says, "Watch this." Throws it on the floor, shatters into hundreds of pieces, and
What?
each piece begins to multiply until very suddenly there's a dozen same-sized ore pieces that he just picked up scattered across the room.
Oh, so you're forging it then?
This man gets it. Oh, fantastic. Yes, but don't tell anyone.
Oh, your secret's safe for me. I'll take 10 coins.
You could take 10
So why-
handfuls on your way out if you find the corpses, or if you find, corpses, if you can find them missing.
So, do you
I
do
give him a
anything
wink.
to? Do you do anything to control the supply? Because this much gold is going to flood every single market in the Golden Keep.
Well, you see, the reason we keep it here, and he gestures to this room, is once it sort of gets exposed up there, we don't know what happens, but it loses that property. It just becomes
So why do
effectively
you-
raw gold.
So why do you need these long mine shafts if all you need is the gold you just had in your hand?
With each brick that we pull, and he picks up one of the shattered ones, and he pulls up a fresh one. You look at it. Make an investigation check for me.
Investigation.
It must be like refining plastics. It's good for a
6.
few times,
6.
but then no longer
He
good.
holds them up and says, "See? Can you see the difference?" Lost on you completely. He's like,
It's gold.
"Well, told you. Even fool a dwarf. How good's that, eh?"
I want to take a look.
Investigation check. As you both are bewildered by this, and you cannot sense what he's looking at. And he expresses and says, "With each time it multiplies, it loses its purity, which means it loses its strength and its weight. Even though it looks the same, as he hands them to you, you realize there's a bit of a weight difference now that he's explained it to you. Same
So
size,
it turns in,
but it's weighted less."
Huh.
so it turns into some sort of an alloy the more you multiply it.
Well, only works at this temperature and this
And
environment.
words.
Apologies,
Is the
Harry.
gold leavening?
Leavening?
Like dough?
Oh,
Kind of.
rising is what we would call,
Yeah,
so
Sure.
he looks at you and he's just like, "I guess in a way, you're very food orientated, aren't you? Don't be go eating no gold. Won't be good
Can
for you."
Can I break these?
Yeah, I guess. Don't know what
I would like
benefit
to
it's gonna
break.
do.
I would like to break open the one that was already multiplied, see if I can sort of split it roughly in half to see if it's more porous or something.
How do you try and break it?
I will find a sharp rock on the ground, a sharp boulder with just a blunt edge
Okay.
that will just sort of work as a chisel.
As you attempt to apply pressure to this, it doesn't budge. As Todd picks it up out of your hand, he says, We don't know why, but as you can see, and you hear another crash, and a thundering echo, screeching brakes come from the mine shaft. And he says, "Third time today already." As he lets go, shattering on the floor the pound of gold that you were attempting to break in a controlled manner.
Third time what?
Cart derailing. In fact, be my guest. That's what you're here for, in some way.
So, I have a question. This is more of a sort of
Sure.
meta level question. When you said corpse earlier, were you misspeaking as DM or was the character misspeaking in character?
Can
When you
you?
mentioned
When I mentioned what?
that we'd be looking for the corpses or the missing miners. Was that you misspeaking as DM or was that you
I chose my
misspeaking
words
as the character?
carefully. I chose my words
All
carefully.
right. All right. Fair enough.
And so, as the party ventures down the mine shaft, and Todd sort of says, 2 weeks. See you then. That's your deadline.
My gosh. Before we go through any sort of portal, as we approach it, I'd like to cast detect magic on it.
Okay. I will inform you when you find something that you would
Yeah.
do so on. As you begin walking down this
Okay.
mine shaft, you walk past the 3 hands who were stood.
Also, one more thing. I didn't like this is a passive trait from my background. But I think it would be cute if it only happened in the Feywild. So can you tell me when we're actually under the influence of the Feywild?
I will do. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
As you pass by the 3 individuals who were just laborers, sort of giving you a weird eye, turning their backs, not making contact. As you walk past them, you feel the temperature rise once more. Great heat is coming. As you can see, this mine shaft, it's straight. But with the lanterns, you can see it slightly descends out of your sight. It's almost like there's a curvature to it. So as you begin to walk down a great distance, you can hear clattering raised voices echoing up towards you. After about 10 minutes of walking down this mine shaft, great depth, the temperature sort of maintaining at this high heat. I'd like you all to roll a Constitution saving throw, please, for the. How is your
Ooh.
body treating this heat? The dwarves have advantage because of your natural affinity to this. Torbrin,
Nice.
you're not doing too well with
Nice.
this. Lothar, to you, in the heat of battle, you've sweated higher than this. Ariel,
This is why I don't go to the mines at home.
No
As-
diggy hole for you.
as a surprise to the party, the 2 dwarves most struggle the most with this heat. As you're sort of feeling a bit of discomfort, sweating profusely, your damp brows soddening your beards. As before you get to complain about it realistically, you can see looming ahead a hulking figure. Quadruped, what looks like a large limb that you realize is a tail, red skin, hunched over what looks to be like a minecart, and you just hear a scream, and then a Wilhelm as apparently aware of your presence, about 60 feet in front of you, stands a creature in this one singular mine shaft. And the only thing I would say that you'd be observant of is there's a slight gap in the wall to the left, a few feet in front of you, that seems very hazy.
I don't like the look of this.
So are those things working for the miners? Ariel, do you recognize it?
Do I?
This looks like a giant monkey,
Okay.
a
Do
red-skinned
I?
giant monkey.
Is that a fake creature?
It looks fake, but you've
Okay.
never seen one of these before.
Okay. I'm unfamiliar with it, but it does bear the markings of being from the Fae.
So does it look like it's working for the miners here?
At that point, it sharply turns its head, and you can see there's like an appendage sticking out of its mouth. It just slurps it up, staring fixated on the group.
Oh my
Before, in a
gosh.
fast
Fluffy.
motion, it bounds towards you, covering the 60 feet. And just before it approaches your group, it puts a hand out, touches the hazed wall, and vanishes from sight.
Okay, I'm going to guess it doesn't work for the miners.
You seem awfully on face for someone who almost just got his hat ripped off.
It's not the first
Maybe
time I
he's
almost
just
got
used
my
to
head ripped
it.
off.
Yeah.
God damn, you need some therapy.
How did medieval people do therapy?
I am
Priests,
gonna
They
I guess.
didn't.
check.
Priests. They did. They had priests.
I think that's a whole other episode.
Um,
as
I'm gonna
as
add one to my sanity.
okay, as the creature just flashed before you, ran at great pace, and then vanished. The haze on the wall vanishes and re-solidifies into just the side of the tavern. As you just hear the creak of the cart in front of you begin to once again roll forward on the gentle descent before you.
Ariel, tell me something.
Yes.
Since you said you're, well, familiar with the Fae lands,
Mhm.
right? How well would the regular denizens of these lands take to somebody else from some other place coming in and mining their stuff?
Oh, that would be horrible. Because you see, most Fae I know really care about their possessions and
So,
collecting.
for example, mm, back when the Iron Dominion used to be called Arling, it was enough if one lord's sheep would accidentally grazed on a neighbor's pasture, and then they'd spend decades trying to club each other's heads in.
Yes. Sounds fair.
I mean, have you tried to mine in a dwarven mine when you're not supposed to be in a dwarven mine? Moradin himself would strike him down with his hammer.
So these people are playing with fire.
Yes, but it
You
really
know,
depends on who, like, I understand what you're saying, and I think it's valid, and it's probably why so many people have died over the span of time. But it really depends on which creature is lord or lady in wherever will end up, because that can really depend. Like the Fey realm is colored by those who own it. The Fairy Queen is the highest in regard along with her king, but you know,
As you say this sentence, you feel a twinge in the middle of your forehead,
hmm
and you
yes.
get this sense, this realization. All you've been doing is just walking in this direction, in this
Oh,
mine shaft. No change. But you immediately are aware you're now in the Fey realm.
oh. So the world, it's still like the same around us?
Mm-hmm.
Damn it. I'll inform my party. I'm not exactly sure when it happened, but we are in the Fey realm now. Maybe it happened with the
Crafted.
creature. I really wanted to see the portal. I wanted to see if it's a natural.
At this point, you realize that probably was the portal.
The creature doing the thing.
Not the creature, but where the creature appeared and disappeared from.
Ah. hmm
Hmm.
Is it too late to go back just a little and
No,
try
you
to?
can turn and look behind you, though it does look very samey. You reckon you're probably only 100 feet away from it. You can run back to
Okay,
it.
so I think it would help if I figure out what kind of magic is on this portal, at least
Absolutely.
just how powerful the magic is on this portal, rather. And I'll do it with as a ritual. I'll cast it as a ritual.
Okay.
Detect
S-
magic, level 1 detect magic.
Is that a 10-minute cast then, at ritual?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. The only thing that occurs during this 10 minutes whilst Ariel is listening, other than conversation amongst yourselves, is the minecart slowly creaks its way out of sight and out of earshot. However, as your ritual completes, you get a very strong sense of alteration on this portal magic.
These people are crazy.
You
Not
think?
only that, but this level of alteration is so potent. This does not feel like a natural rift. This feels like something cast and is being maintained.
Whoa.
You know, I'm slowly starting to realize that that Todd fella, when he misspoke with corpses, I don't think he misspoke at all.
I mean, if I lost
yeah.
men, a couple of months ago, I'd assume they'd be dead by now if they're not back.
Yeah, it's fair enough to assume that, but anyway, so the this portal is being cast and maintained, which is crazy. I don't know who has the power to do that, apart from very high players in the world.
This close to the Golden Keep, there might be a few. And if this gold is going into the Golden Keep mints,
Yeah.
there is no way they don't have a hand in this, one way or another.
hmm
Should we stop any more people coming in here then?
Not our
I think
business.
that's outside of, yeah,
Not our
we're
business.
hired adventurers.
We're here to
But if
pick
we
up a.
were, yeah, go ahead.
No. Ariel, go.
I just think if we were to take a stand here uh, for what's right, quote unquote, it would lead to fewer deaths amongst the poor miners who come here hoping for an easier life.
Ariel, absolutely nothing is right in the world above.
So that doesn't mean you can't help.
I don't feel good about people coming here to die.
Well,
Exactly.
they come in, they get paid. They're probably briefed on the risks. It's not our place to intervene.
I would assume that this
They,
conversation is now happening as you're
yeah, we're walking. We're
walking
walking.
again. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Carry on. I will tell you once there's a
Yeah,
change
yeah,
of
yeah,
scenery.
yeah.
This is a long,
Yeah,
long
yeah.
raid.
Long corridors.
Yes, basically.
Is it still increasingly hotter?
It's the temperature. Actually, I'm so sorry. That should have been the first hint because when you asked me what I know,
Ah,
the temperature is now for you absolutely normal. For
okay,
everybody else,
cool.
it's warm, but it's not the sauna you just left.
Okay, and like the soil that we step on, what is it? Is it like rough terrain, rocky, or is it like actual
You're
ground?
still what you would have. You're still what you perceive to be within a cave. So it's more of a
Okay.
stone base with layered rail tracks that this
Mm-hmm.
minecart was going along. Though the debris is now it was a rather well maintained track itself. There was no loose debris, rock fell anywhere. But as you're looking for it, you can see now permeating through as you sort of progress down this corridor more sort of like roots and vines and small little one or two bits of moss begin to appear on the interior, wrapping themselves around the wood of this actual support beams that hold up this mine shaft. It's with another sort of 10 minutes, so 30 minutes in total for you to complete this journey of walking time.
Yeah.
You see a light at the end of this metaphorical tunnel. As you see stopped and currently being loaded by a gargantuan-sized individual sat blocking most of your view, though the silhouette is perceived against the backdrop of a low blue-purple sky, as this large ape-like individual with deep red skin is currently loading this cart with more ores of varying colors, sizes, shapes, blocks of rock, being gingerly lowered into this cart. As you protrude and exit out of this tunnel, this creature pays you no mind. You notice upon its neck a large, heavy steel or brass, it's not brass, steel or iron collar and a chain up to a wall. Not just one chain, but you see one for the neck, one for each arm, all three of them, and one for 3 legs.
Does it look like similar to the other creature that
You
we
could see
encountered?
potentially related, but this is a 6 limbed creature plus tail. Large,
Is it
deep red fur.
is it in pairs of two? So two legs, two arms vertically, or is it 2 rows of
So it's
3?
sat down on its backside, and you can see just in a weird spiraling, you see 1 leg, 2 legs, and like a third one just off to the side, and the tail on the far right side of it. But as it's sort of turning to and from, there's 2 arms almost where sort of protruding out of the shoulders that are picking up smaller pieces and filtering through them, whilst the larger, bulkier hands beneath them are picking up large chunks of the ore and filling up the cart.
He
And for
doesn't look like he's
perspective,
getting
I
paid.
realized I didn't actually describe the cart size. This cart is huge. This isn't a single Minecraft individual cart. This is a large vessel, like an oil tanker sized. Sorry, a truck sized load is what you're essentially been walking behind.
He doesn't look like he's getting paid.
I don't think that's the least of his worries.
As you
Well,
sort of walk out and just observe this great gargantuan figure, you turn and see what is probably a compound twice the size of what you just walked into in Firefall, with palisades, well-manned guards. You can see patrols walking up and down, all wearing some kind of cloak. In fact, the same regal red cloak Todd was wearing when he first met you.
so that wasn't just for show. Ariel,
Yes,
you said the portal we just walked through was maintained, right?
it was cast and maintained. Yes.
Didn't Halfa say that they stumbled upon an entrance to this place?
Mm, I'm not sure exactly how he phrased it. She seems kind of lost in thought, and as you look at her eyes right now, they're shimmering. They're blue normally, but they shimmer with this like green pine forest type effect. And at her feet, now that we're out of the cave, when she interacts with the ground, there's flowers growing.
Oh,
Almost like a constant passive of like Druid
Yeah,
cantrip of wow of
yeah, exactly. It's
what's it
like
called?
that.
Is it Bloom? I can't remember. The Druidcraft. There we go. It's almost like
A
a
druid craft,
Druidcraft.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same type of effect.
You would
Hmm.
get this mental, this feeling, warmness in your forehead, Ariel.
Mm-hmm.
And you have this persistent thought. And the thought is just very simple. Do the right thing.
Yeah.
It's just that thought. As walking at a brisk pace is a troop of 4 guards. You can see one is carrying what you, to your surprise, Torbran, looks like a very large blunderbuss. And you don't see many blunderbusses outside of, well, any of this grandeur with filigree and design and a huge wide, like a massive barrel on this thing. This is a custom gnome job. You know this. You know this kind of craft. In accompanying to the large weapon, there are halberds, shields, and these individuals, these mercenaries, looked armed to the teeth, ready for anything.
And are they wearing the cloak thingy?
They are wearing the cloak, yes. As one individual approaches, steps forward from the group. Hail! New here?
Adventurers Guild business.
Sent by Halfus, I assume.
Indeed.
Then what are you here for?
The missing miners from a couple of months ago, the ones that aren't accounted for.
Ah. He seems to be looking you up and down. Must be some good stuff. We'd have expected more, but you'll do, I guess.
Oh. There's always room for better, isn't there?
As that, he's stopped looking you all up and down and is now fixated on Ariel. And you notice he has a hand on a hilt at his waist. As not only that, but the rifleman is now sort of. He's gone from it's on my back to sort of readied position. Not aimed,
I
but readied.
would appreciate if you wouldn't try to shoot my men.
My men.
As he tosses you a inquisitive look, but he's not breaking eye contact with Ariel. It's like, and what's your business here?
She is with me.
I want to hear it from her.
I am traveling. It's never been illegal to travel, has it?
Do you have any particular families or houses that you are part of?
I. Mm,
This is a insightful question that you realize what he's asking here, and he's asking for your allegiance effectively. Where do you lie on this?
Yeah, she wouldn't lie because even if it goes to shit, at least she can rescue that poor creature. So she's gonna say that my bond is with the fairy queen.
I see. Give me a moment, please wait here. And the rifle is now fixed and aimed on Ariel, and the 3 halberdsmen are approaching you slowly. Lothar, Voldreth, and Torbran. As the individual disappears, the gates close. There's this awkward standoff. No one's moving, no one's saying anything, and the only noise that you can hear, before you really listen, the only noise you can hear is the breaking of ore, the slamming of metal or alloys, as you said, into a heavy container. The occasional
Are
grunt.
we are we far away from the large creature?
Uh,
The big.
only about 20 or so, 30 feet or so. It's
Okay,
possibly
so
you're possibly still within its arm's reach almost.
yeah, then Ariel will stay near it and just look at it, kind of like with pity and trying to see its emotions, and maybe I would roll an insight on it even.
Roll an Arcana for me or an Insight, whichever you'd rather.
I'll try an insight, it's better.
Okay, an Insight.
Ooh.
Something is really off that you observe about this creature. You know, fey creatures are incredibly hard to bend. It's very hard to bend the fey creatures to will. Their willpower
Mm-hmm.
is natural, it's untamed, it's uncontrolled. So to see something of such magnitude broken strikes a thought in you that this is not a creature that has been bested in combat. This is a creature that has been submitted through magical means. And as you do this,
Mm-hmm.
you can actually pay attention to the chains and the manacles. You can see glowing every now and again, almost like every time this creature exerts an amount of force, these runes flare for but a second and then vanish once again on all these manacles.
Mm-hmm. My empathy grows.
In the ambience, you guys hear off in the distance as you realize, sort of, as you've looked out of this tunnel, you expect, sort of, looking back to see a mountain of some sorts. None whatsoever. In fact, it would only be but a hill that you have walked out of. And you see this purple blue sky above you. You hear these strange sounds, almost like a jungle, out in the distance. And as you sort of look around and sort of take in the environment beyond the palisade walls that you can see, you could be deep in sort of some kind of fey rainforest, and you have no sense of direction whatsoever. Not even a source of light for the sky is visible, though it is well illuminated.
I will look at the gun. What kind of creature is holding the gun? Is it a
Uh,
gnome or is it a...
it looks, well, it's currently about 4 foot tall, and it's wearing its cloak up to its head, so you can't quite see its facial features. And it's wearing full mail gear, gauntlets. You're looking for some kind of exposed skin just to try and identify what this thing is, and there is nothing visible.
What's the stature of it aside from being? Is it wide? Is it thin?
It's stout, though stout and stocky, though
Mhm.
not of dwarven stature.
All right. Is that a steel sprocket you got there?
Perhaps. Why is it to you?
I will grab my gun. Steel sprocket. Rumble shot. In the name, in the flesh. Don't see many of those around. Where'd you get yours?
Nah. I thought I recognised you. What are you doing here?
Recognize me?
Yeah.
Take off that hood.
I think that's what you said to me last time. Before you ran off, diving for some more materials that you never came back with. Hmm?
I forgot his name. Oh no. Goddamn. Is it Phineas?
As the hood is peeled back,
Phineas?
a smirking Phineas stands before you, lowers his aim, and says, I reckon you still owe me a stout or two.
Wow, about we talked this whole ordeal over with whatever we can muster in wherever we are.
You really have no idea, do you?
Of course not. What, you think I'm here for some mining operation? You know
Well,
me.
still eating everything you can find, I take it. You can see there's this really awkward sort of like back and forth that's going between the other three individuals who are sort of attempting to, square off in front of you all. Before Phineas just sort of clicks his fingers, and you see the three of them in unison walk back and stand behind Phineas. And with another click, they all go limp.
Limp?
Still standing,
Oh.
but no longer in a hostile manner.
Like magically limp.
Mechanically limp.
Mechanic, sure. I see you've upped your game, Phineas, haven't you?
Well, it's amazing what you can find out here with these raw materials.
About those materials. What's up with this multiplying gold?
Nothing to do with me, that one, but it is a unique trait. You can see we stand to make an absolute killing when we deliver the most recent shipment.
I was never that much into mining minerals and making bank. For me, the true treasure is in the world itself. On that note, that thing behind us, what's up with that?
Oh,
I point towards the bounded creature.
Teddy? He's harmless. He's a big teddy bear.
Let me guess, he's harmless because of you?
No. Harmless well before I got here.
How long have you been here?
I don't know.
Wasn't that long ago.
What year is it?
What year would it be? It's almost a century after the ruination.
Well,
The anniversary is about to come up.
I see. You see a look of little bit worry pass over Phineas's face as he explains, well, I've only been here a day.
Well, you seem awfully in rank for someone who's been here a day. Not surprised by someone of your particular skills.
As in a day of the Fey realm.
I look at him strangely. What do you mean by that?
Do you vouch for this one? And he points at Ariel.
She promised me Fey honey, so I guess so.
I promised you nothing.
I will sort of bump you, like, come on.
Okay, okay.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Okay, sure.
Well, if you promise to cook me up one of your famous brews, she can come in.
Well, I was wondering if there was anything in here that I could maybe make a brew or stew with. You know how I am.
Only self-defense is permitted, or we're all toast. And it's a very stern look from Phineas. Don't you go picking a fight with something. Not here. Not on these grounds.
How so?
This operation is on a knife edge. Come! I'll tell you all about it inside.
All right. I will follow him inside. And I will walk next to him, showing my gun, see the progress that I made tinkering with it myself.
The three of you watch as Torbjorn sort of in lockstep joins Phineas and is walking off as you observe these individuals perfectly unison 180 on the spot and begin walking behind them in synchronized step. As
Might as well.
Torbjorn, you would recognize the unmistakable sound of mechanical constructs that they are.
The
Might as
halberd.
well follow.
The halberd wearing individuals, yeah. As you are looking, you notice on the parameter of this compound, every cloaked individual is an exact clone of these constructs that you are now walking side by side with. All the same stature, all the same weapons, all the same lockstep and unison motions.
Have you made all of these, or were these already here?
Contracted. I just came to deliver them, and then kind of got roped in for a bigger contract. And there's a greedy, glistening glee in his eyes.
I know that look. You're on
Nah.
some Chinese, aren't you?
Oh, some big shit. You have no idea.
That must have been a busy day, wasn't it?
It was about 6 months of all the Smiths working for him, but we delivered, and they look mighty good too, don't they? And he smacks one of them on the side, and it sort of goes to you. You realize as Phineas is sort of playfully jesting towards it, you watch as an arm immediately goes to parry and then gives way before it was to defend itself.
I'd expect nothing less from you.
Aye.
So
Who are your
these have only
friends?
been here for it.
Who are your friends? As the gate opens and enters you into a compound that is just a much larger scale of exactly what you saw Firefall to be previously. It's like a one-to-one replica with twice as many in it. And you do,
Oh,
however,
these are
see...
just some.
Carry on.
These are just some friendly individuals that I ran into who are helping me to create the most exotic stews I could possibly imagine, from the most exotic creatures you could possibly find.
Well, you have to tell me about all your kills since we last saw then. Especially with the ones with these. A friend of Torbron is a friend of mine. He sort of looks to all of you, almost expectingly like an introduction, something along those lines.
I'm going to nudge our silent dwarf. They look like your crowd.
Oh, you got any ale? Let's get to know each other after a brew.
Proper old timer. Well, not many of you around these parts.
Oh, been around.
Yeah, surprised that you're still here. But glad that you are.
I'll have none of that.
You have to catch me.
You young'uns and your gizmos. Oh, I can't stand you.
As the individual known as Phineas is leading you towards what is unmistakably some kind of pulled to adopted like tavern or drinking house, and you can hear on the inside of this at least 50-60 foot long building, just as you see it from the side on as you're approaching, a warm sense of home and an atmosphere as you hear the doors open. There is merriness going on. This is a bustling tavern full of individuals of all walks of life here. And as Phineas explains, he says, "We just finished about an hour ago for the day, so perfect timing."
Well, this is quite the contrast compared to the decay town they call Meyerfall.
That's just a front. Got to keep people out.
Don't neglect it. Because if I wanted to shut down your mining operation, I wouldn't pressure you here. I'd bring people to siege what's upstairs and make sure that you can't bring supplies in or take all your gold out.
He doesn't mean it like that.
As Phineas paused to try and make a judgment call, you see that left a bit of a mark upon his impression of you, though he seems to be won over and trusting of Torbran. As you guys find yourself a table, you sit down, you pull up a chair. As Phineas plonks his wondrous blunderbuss, rifle, cannon, whatever you wish to call it, down beside the table. It is almost as tall as he. And you can see he clicks his fingers, and coming over immediately is a automaton. This time with a cloak over its right shoulder, and is green in color instead of the normal red. As you guys all see for the first time, a golden, well, you think golden in this natural light, but you realize it's some kind of brass steamwork clock cranked machine. And then you realize it's not brass, it's copper. And this construct walks over, gives a low, courteous bow, and says, "Please, can I take your order?"
Do you have anything that isn't conjured?
Processing data. Yes. Please, can I take your order?
Get me a non-conjured steak and some ale.
Steak and ale is not on the menu. Please, can I take your order? And Phineas just kicks it, and he's just like, right, okay. This isn't your first. This is clearly your first time here. This isn't a 4-star restaurant, I'm afraid, Mister
You can call me Lothar.
Lothar. Get him 3-hour specials, and are we going heavy or not? And he looks to you, Torben.
Of course. The
Bring
more
them
the merrier.
dwarven stouts.
Open one of the back barrels. 3-hour specials and extra reserve back barrel label. Confirmed. As you see, like a small pouch opens, and you watch as some kind of dust powder. Phineas pulls out of his pocket and puts it into the pouch before it's closed up and sealed. The automaton walks off. A busy environment that you find yourselves in. There is chatter. Is anybody listening to the other tables, or is everybody trying to focus on the conversation between Torber and Voldreth and Phineas?
Lothar would be mostly interested in what Torbern and Phineas have to talk about.
Okay. So
I'm curious if those 4 guards that walked away from us, if they're here, or if they show up at some point. I wanna sort of listen in on them and what they decided. But
Okay, so as when you entered the accompanying group of individuals, there was 3. What you realize now, 3 automatons. This dwarven statured individual that Torben's referring to as Phineas, and then there was 1 other cloaked individual which you didn't quite see. He was taller than the automatons, but you didn't quite make out any features. You don't see that individual in this room anywhere.
mhm.
I'll tell you if they enter the premises. If you're sort of passively looking out for them.
And I'm just passively looking out for them with my shitty perception. So we gotta keep that in mind too.
Understood. I'll tell you to make rolls occasionally. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, Phineas,
Torben.
what are you doing here? How did you get here?
Well,
Granted, you probably have the same question for me.
you first. And I'll tell you myself.
Fair enough. Well, I was looking for some more exotic creatures for.
Came to the right place.
You know how I am. Now, initially, there was a contract here for missing miners. I wasn't very interested, but there was a prospect of other more interesting prospects along the way. Which, while I sort of grab my backpack and on the table, have you ever had a piece of gemstone drake? As I just pull out a small slice of the tail of a gemstone drake.
As you pull this out, expecting a proud or a envious look from Phineas of companionship and camaraderie, there is gloom and despair on his face.
What's with the low face, Phineas?
When did you find this creature? And how far away was it?
Day ago,
Days.
was it?
There you go. Just down the mountain between the Golden Keep and Firefall.
You have
Oh, we
no
tucked away in a
idea,
cave.
do you?
And some flakes will fall out.
And his
Well,
head hits the desk with like a proper face palm, but face desk. Or the table, I should say. As Phineas puts one hand over his face, rubs his eyes, and looks back at you in the most disbelieving stare. You're going to tell me that's one of the kids now, isn't it? Because the only good thing you can say out of your mouth is that that's the mother.
We don't even know what it is exactly. We were just trying to make sense of a cavern. Thing jumped us. We killed it. First time I've encountered it. I don't know if it was a kid, adolescent, mother. But judging by the look you just gave us, I'm pretty sure it was a kid or an adolescent, and we just probably pissed something bigger off, didn't we?
Probably. I'll put it this way. You're probably going to want to stay on this side for a while.
Think it has our scent by now?
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna come after us.
In fact, I'm surprised you even made it here.
I didn't notice anything else tracking us.
Now, there's been talks in the
Except for
local
the mist that
vicinity.
followed us everywhere.
I don't mind the mist. Don't get lost in it. That's one of the defense mechanisms that we have in place.
How
Oh, it's
so?
yours.
Not mine, but it's part of my falls. Prevents those who don't know the way finding us accidentally.
I see.
Mm-hmm. So that's why you're so confident in the fact that the outside fort is secure.
Well, to be honest, I was very impressed you made it here, and then I found out who led you. Then it all made sense.
You mean to say that gemstone drake is that from here?
Yes. Yes, it is.
And it crossed over.
I've been eating Fae! I just scramble for my notebook and start scribbling. That's amazing!
Phineas is sort of
So
taken aback, but remembers how you're like this. And is just like looks to you, Lothar.
I'm guessing you're behind, or somebody from here is behind, and he pulls out the very strange-looking Drake bounty. And somebody from here is behind this.
No. This is the
Daylight.
opposite. You see, do you even know what those drakes are?
First time I've encountered one.
And he pulls out a small pouch, and it's containing similar looking ore that you would recognize.
The gems.
The gems, yeah.
I will grab mine out of my bag too, the large sort of diamond looking. You mean stuff like this?
Yeah. One and the same.
So how is this different from ordinary gem?
Well, they're not. They're effectively the same thing on a chemical and molecular structure. And he begins to go off on a absolute ramble from an engineering, almost like a biochemist physicist, a individual who is more
Wow.
passionate about something else than Torbjorn has demonstrated about food.
Wow.
Before He concludes and
Yeah,
explains.
yeah. I know you like to go on that tangent. Come on, man. We're low IQ individuals. here. Give me a break.
Look, put simply, they are the same. However, in the Fey realm, they have magical properties that we're attempting to dilute here at camp that can create it to reproduce to some degree in quantity at the cost of some of its purity. But though, to the naked eye, and unless you've got an improved way of breaking down it alchemically, almost undetectable. Now, once these raw ores, and he holds up the stuff that he's produced, inferring it's from the Fey realm, reaches the material realm, it loses some of that alchemical property. And it hardens and loses it and becomes incredibly rigid. It's not reproducible at that point. It is to what we would call gemstone.
And you're not really interested in the gemstones, are you? You're interested in the other properties. Gemstones are just a, lovely bonus to all of it.
Make an insight check as Phineas is deciding what to say.
12.
12. Torbrun, you can make an insight check with advantage because you have familiarity with Phineas.
Side
Lothar.
20.
Okay.
30,
Lothar,
20.
to you, he ponders for a moment and then he gives you a stern response. A response to which, Torbrun, you notice as Phineas, when he's being tactical, he gets very picky with his words. As if to omit details he didn't really wish to share. Or perhaps to rephrase something in a very positive outlook, even if it was absolutely dire. You're all too familiar with this, with his experimentation with weaponry, and it's even if you have a loss of life or a massive explosion, it's progress, nonetheless. As Phineas explains to you, he says, some things are impossible to come by unless you really, really exhaust all avenues to obtain them. And some things are needed for grander designs that aren't found on the material realm.
Are you on the edge of a breakthrough, Phineas?
When am I not? He looks to you in a completely different tone.
I honestly hope somebody doesn't think like this in regards to the abyss.
Yeah. Well, if there's even more reproducing stuff in there, we'll be making our way.
You don't
So
want
long
it.
as it's of any
Trust me.
value.
Lothar, you're underestimating Phineas's interests. Let's call it that.
Well, it's very simple. To make more of this, you just have to simply have the right ingredients and time. And in the Fey realm, all these creatures have got is time. A
So
lot of
about
it.
that,
Yes.
what did you mean when you said you was only here for a
Like my
day?
dog, you guys.
Oh, keeping the bed warm for
He's
you.
just rolling around. He's like so happy.
Scritches.
Yes.
Oh, bless it.
Yeah.
And so, as Phineas is having this conversation, what was it that you said, Torban?
What were you implying when you said you were only here for a day
A day.
in
Yes.
the Fey realm?
You you probably came in, let's see, and you confer and you express and you catch up on how long it's been. And to you in the real world, it has been over half a year since you last saw Phineas. In terms of what Phineas is explaining to you, is a week after you left, he also headed out on this expedition. to deliver the constructs that you, at this point, realize a lot of that delving you were doing, you knew it was recovering artifacts and components and such. As you realize bits and pieces of each of these constructs, they are of almost the same design to some items that you have dredged up from the bottom of Tinkertown yourself. As he expressly conveys that it's just under 6 months since he stepped through that portal.
You've been here for almost half a year, Phineas.
As I said, only a day in the Fae.
How is this business lucrative?
It's not yet.
I understand you are here. You don't care about how lucrative it is. You just want knowledge. That's all you ever care for.
I want this. And he pulls out a green glass-like item in a raw, uncut state, but it's no bigger than his thumb. Residium. This is what I need. And you only get this by working these ores with a bit of magic and a bit of Fey persuasion, we'll call it. Or you can find it naturally, but that requires ancient dragon breath and Fey magic as well. So if that's a bit more harder to come by, bit of alchemy is the only answer.
This vaguely reminds me of those people who create coffee from cat poop.
How grotesque. And at that point, the automaton returns with 3 bowls of steaming hot liquid, which hits your nostrils like a sweet buffet, as if someone's just opened a full pastry dish before you. But it's all in liquid form. And you sort of see this lumps of what could be pastry littered throughout the broth itself. 3 house specials and 3 dwarven stouts. As off its back it pulls out miniature casks, about a litre each in size, puts them down on the table.
Finally, some normal food.
Now we're
Ironic, huh?
talking.
It's ironic having normal food in one of the most abnormal places I've ever been to.
What should
No.
I get?
Say again?
She asked Phineas, what should I get? Because I assume the 3 are for the boys.
Well, no. So the 3 regulars are for Ariel, Lothar, and Voldreth. But then
Okay.
there are 3
Okay.
dwarven stouts, which is, you realize,
Ah,
a liquid diet is what's the alternative.
I see. Okay.
So it is just free for the group to choose what they wish for.
I'm gonna ask Phineas if there's any people that know magic down here.
More than I can count. And how about you? You said very little.
I'm just trying to figure out how to control me dark side, let's say.
Ooh.
You're really brooding, aren't you?
I didn't see the eyeliner that you had there either. Well, it's an
Oh,
interesting approach.
you mean this tattoo right here?
What's it of?
Oh, it's me, Crescent Star. Religious symbol of me, hometown.
Mm. Can't say I know much about that place, I'm afraid.
I got wiped out. A bit sad, really.
When the dwarfs run low. Anyway,
We turn to ale.
we turn to ale.
You said this whole operation is on a knife's edge. And we're about to walk into the Feywilds looking for a bunch of missing miners that the owner of this operation presumes dead. What do you mean?
Well, as you are aware, the Adventurers Guild has a need for contracts. And our contact there has a way of every now and again supplying us with some fresh meat to keep those of inquisitive nature, perhaps investigating Mayafall further. On the other side, we are here at the good graces of, shall we say, the local house. An agreement has been struck long ago, many fair years before. However, recently that family has gone through a bit of a power struggle.
And who are they?
Makes an insight check on you. Looks
Sure.
at you.
I'm persuading to
You
be
persuade. Roll
innocent
persuasion then.
and
Roll persuasion
innocent
for
and
me.
unaware. Innocent and unaware.
Okay. As he looks at you and says, "You said you were of the Fey Queen,
Yeah.
Fairy Queen."
Mhm.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Let's just say it's of a house who would be not so maniacally aligned with your lord. Hence why, and at this point he pulls a small pistol out from underneath the desk. He says, "I feel comfortable enough around you to not need this anymore." As
Okay.
Torbrun, you realise that stealthily he had been having it pointed under the table at Ariel all this time.
Oh my god. These people are crazy.
You haven't met what's left of House Bane.
Yeah, the sunken marshes, whatever it's called now anymore.
Believe it or not, people still live there.
I don't believe it.
I saw a few.
Well, let me put it this way. The ghosts you would find on that isle would fail in comparison to the horrors that you can find here if you stray from but the beaten path. Be warned. But you should know. You have a fakist among you.
Blessed with a good guide.
You'll need it.
I don't know what to say about that. I
So
can
this
walk
r-
the paths, but I don't know how well I trust myself to lead others down these roads.
I've got to ask you a
If you
question,
don't,
though. And he turns to you, Torbrun, and he pulls out a small button mushroom and says, "Have you had one of these yet?"
is that the mushroom that Todd was talking about earlier?
I don't know. What was Todd talking about earlier?
Some mushrooms down here. I don't know of any mushrooms in caves. This is the first mushroom I've come across.
Ah,
What
yes.
about
Mushroom
it?
number 1.
They call them mountain mushrooms.
That's the one. Kind of a bland name for something that is not really looking much like a mountain here, is it?
Oh, they don't grow here. Go deep, deep in the jungles. Only the tallest trees on the tallest peaks grow these.
Mushrooms that grow on trees.
Mushroom
What
trees.
what's so special about these mushrooms?
He puts it in his hand, grinds it to a firm pulp and then a powder, and he glistens it over your stout. Empties his palm into your drink and says,
Oh, it's
"You'll thank me
vaginated.
in a later while. Much later." For now!
Oh,
Another round. As he realized he has already drunk his entire 1 liter keg.
I will grab the stout and give it a good sniff.
Constitution saving throw, please. You have advantage because of your passive
20.
on a 20. Just smells like good dwarven stout. As you take a good hearty drink.
Can I detect poison / disease?
You would detect poison. No disease. As you
Charming.
drink and enjoy the warm flavors, do you finish to catch up with Phineas? Do you take the whole lot?
No, I'll take my time.
Okay. In moderation.
Yes. I
As
know to
you
remain to some
take a
degree.
moment, you feel your eyelids heavy for a second. And you blink and it's fine. And you look over at Phineas. And Phineas's wonderful mustache and full-length beard is now purple. And the hair on his head is purple. As you turn and look at Lothar, every visible hair on Lothar. What color hair are you naturally, Lothar?
Somewhere halfway between dark brown and dusty blonde.
Dark brown and dusty blonde. It is more of a red, a pinky red. And Ariel's natural blue skin is now almost like a mustard yellow.
Cool. It's the invert beer.
All colors are effectively reversed. Whilst you slowly enjoy this warm bit of an acid trip, I think for now we'll find out what else you discover is different next week. And we'll call it for that
Damn.
tonight's episode.
What a
Oh.
fashionable way to end the story.